what's up friends? You go Gypsy back. Week 4 of the NPL is here, and we're going up against Mr. Murk, coming hot off our win versus Shoutout. Yeah, really looking to continue the streak, obviously, as we go on through the NPL. But yeah, so we're facing Murk today. Definitely one of the strongest players in the league, in my opinion. He's new to the NPL this season, but I know Murk. I've played him in draft tournaments. I've seen him win the GPC, the previous season of the GPC. I've watched him, go toe-to-toe with Zazo. So my boy Anthony, who's also a very good player. So yeah, Murk's, he's got a very good record going into this game. I think he only had one loss, I believe, week 1 to Anthony. So and that was a 1-0. So yeah, he's definitely played very well this season, and he's drafted an amazing team. He's drafted definitely one of the top teams in my opinion, one of the most nicely balanced teams. Unlike me, who just chose some fun offense with like Uxie. Murk has drafted a really, really well thought out, put together team. And he's got the likes of Jirachi, Megaladios, as you guys can see. He's got the Latios on screen. He's got the Flinch Core and Jirachi and Togekiss. Not to mention threats like Crocodile. Terrakion is a big threat. Stuff like Roserade, another huge threat in his team. He's got really nice triple wish spam with Jirachi, Licky. I believe he had another wish user as well. I'm blanking at the moment, but yeah, he's got a really good wish support on his team as well. And then with some nice speed in Swallow, as you can see, he's elected to bring Swallow versus me this week. So yeah, he has a team of threats. The majority of his mons do sort of match up quite well against me, in my opinion. Terrakion is a big threat, obviously, and as it is versus most teams. And he also is quite weak to Dugtrio, which is definitely something that, as you, looking at the team he brought today, you can tell how much of a threat Dugtrio was, having switch-ins in the form of Togekiss and Swallow and Latios is really nice for him, but I'm sure it has, caused him to prep accordingly for Dugtrio, so that's something to keep in mind. A quick rundown of the team that I brought today. We got Mega Guard, a pretty interesting Mega Guard set. Able to tank certain hits. It's Wish Protect, Encore, Hyper Voice. Encore is to lock stuff like Suicune and Togekiss into their setup moves of choice, and start firing off some Hyper Voices. So nothing too crazy about this guard set, but it is a nice Fat Gypsy guard special, and nothing new there. So and then we have a Defensive Shaman, basically a mandatory mon versus a team with a Crocodile, who is definitely a threat to my team. So this mon can spam Leech Seed versus his team. Roserade isn't really the greatest of brings versus me because I do have so many ways to beat it offensively. It really felt as though it wouldn't come, and if it did, I had decent answers to it in the back. Decent ways of checking it offensively, that is. So Leech Seed is looking pretty free this game. If I'm in a situation where Shaman's in versus something like Crocodile. Not really too much else crazy about Shaman. It's pretty standard this match, nothing spicy. Sorry, Shoutout. Still not innovating just yet with Shaman, but that time will come. Then we have Scarf Shaman, just basically a pretty nice win con this week. For those of you who aren't aware, I made a couple of trades after last week. I traded Keldeo, my boy Keldeo, after putting so much work in the one game that it actually had a role to fulfill. It did last week against Shoutout. I traded it away to Blake, Moxie Infernape, with a heavy heart, mind you. But in return, I did receive Latios, so that is a pretty nice mon for me to have. And I did end up trading Galissapod for Heracross, which is, while I was very sad to see Galissapod go, I do think it's a real fucking dope mon to have on the team, to be honest. That crippling Stealth Rock weakness, plus its arguably bad ability, just couldn't quite match up to the potential that Heracross offers my team. So yeah, Heracross was a trade that I did make, and as you guys can see, I've brought it. Scarf set this week, being able to revenge most of his team, and sweep potentially once his few checks to it have been weakened. So then we have a predominantly specially defensive Zapdos with a bit of defense investment. and rocking U-turn this week. U-turn is pretty nice because he does have a Crocodile in his team. T-Bolt for general coverage, being able to OHKO stuff like Swallow, and you know, Tuikeo, Toge Kiss, which is pretty nice. Roost and Defog. You know, Defog is pretty nice if I can win the Hazard War. Otherwise, Roost is just mandatory as well on this set. So next up we have Life Orb Infernape. U-turn is pretty nice this match. He doesn't have a lot of answers to Infernape on his team, barring Suicune, maybe a really bulky Mega Latios spread. So having U-turn is pretty nice indeed, being able to pivot out on the switch-ins. You know, if I play aggressively with U-turns, I could potentially put myself in a really favorable position, but we'll see how that goes. And then last up, we have a predominantly defensive Uxie with a bit of Spit F, but mainly defensive this week. Being able to set up rocks on a lot of his team, being able to foul play stuff like a DD offensive, physically offensive Latios. I had to cover both my bases with Latios as it is quite versatile, and hence my defensive options in Zapdos and Uxie. So. And guard for that matter. My foul play Uxie deals huge damage to Latios if he does decide to set up in my face, as well as being able to deal with stuff like Arachi, you know, provided I don't get flinched. And yeah, Doublade is obviously spanked hard by foul play if he does decide to set up. So yeah, that is the idea behind Uxie. And yeah, looking at his team, obviously Crocodile is probably going to be his rocker. Rachi, just looking at his team, may be specially defensive, but the fact that he has Doublade means that he may be like a specially defensive tank set with like Sassy Violet, Garaball, that sort of all that business. But we'll have to wait till we get into the match to see. But yeah, I did expect Togekiss and Swallow to come just because Dugtrio is such a threat to his team. If, say for example, he was like if he was like Shed Shell Jirachi, and I attempt to trap him with Dugtrio, and he has something like a nasty baton pass, Togekiss in the back, I could lose a ton of momentum, and that was something I really did not want to risk this game, I'll say that much. So yeah, not surprised to see the team, but definitely a threatening team nonetheless. Looking at Swallow, I am thinking it is going to be a choice spec set. Guts is somewhat good versus me if it wants to like overload my physical walls, so like a DD Latios could do some work, but I did feel as though specs was pretty solid versus me, as my only normal resist is my Empoleon, which matches up quite poorly versus the rest of his team, just purely because of how many offensive threats he has, like Terrakion, Crocodile, even like a Luarachi or something like that. But you know, that being said, Guts Swallow is still a threat. So we're going to jump into the match. There's no reason not to lead off with Zapdos. It matches up versus really nicely versus like 5 out of his 6 members. If he wants to lead Crook, I can you know, I can make a decision when I get there. But I don't think he's going to lead Crook. If I led Infernape, you know, I could potentially weaken something severely turn 1. And the fact that he could be, you know, choice spec Swallow means that he's pretty free to fire off a Boom Burst turn 1 if I don't lead with something that can force it out offensively. So yeah, Zapdos is definitely the play turn 1. So we are going to lead off with Zapdos, as we do get the right. He does lead with Swallow, so yeah. Nice. He's going to go for the U-turn here, so I'm going to get the slow U-turn out. You know, catching his Crocodile here with the U-turn, he, you know, would have expected me to go for the T-Bolt there potentially, because Swallow was such a threat. And I know Murk is a smart guy, and he knows that I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to opposing sets. So, you know, predicting me maybe to Thunderbolt the threat that was Spec Swallow would make a lot of sense on his part. But I knew he wasn't going to risk it there just in case. And I do make the offensive U-turn turn 1, and that plays out for us because I can go into Nape here. Now what Nape does is it either forces out his Crocodile, unless he's like a Choppleberry variant, unless he's like fat. That U-turn damage revealed he was Intimidate, but that U-turn damage revealed that he was indeed not invested in HP or defense. So if this is a Scarf Crocodile, it can potentially kill Infernape here. If he's an offensive Crocodile and he has Choppleberry, he can live a hit and kill with Earthquake. Either way, I wasn't going to risk Infernape this early in the game, not when it's such a fantastic win con versus his team. So I'm going to double out to Zapdos, just scouting. If he does want to go for the rocks here, that's kind of wild, but he could make that play, but I can always defog my way with Zapdos. So I'm going to double out, and he does just go for the Stealth Rock. So not sure what his crook set was exactly. I think he said it was an agave berry or something in his match. Go and check out his match, by the way. I'll be linking that in the description, and I'll be talking about it after the game. But yeah, so he goes through the rocks there. Interesting play, if he considering he wasn't choppable. But he may have predicted him to switch out there, and gone for something like Flare Blitz, which he thought he could live, but Life Orb Flare Blitz does kill Crook from this range. So you know, Murk made the big man play, and it paid off for him, so to speak. So I'm going to go for the defog right here, as he's going to knock off my lefties, which is a pain, but it you know, it couldn't really be helped in the sense that Zapdos was going to lose health coming in on rocks anyway. I can kind of scout his set here. If he doesn't have Stone Edge, I will be able to beat this Crook. You know, defogging on it, U-turning out, and roosting up to amount of health where knockoff isn't doing too much, because knockoff is boosted obviously on the first hit. So if he's like a taunt set with EQ knockoff, then he won't be able to you know, damage my Zapdos too much, because I do underspeed him, so he won't be getting like an earthquake off on my roost, for example. So he's going to go for the Stone Edge here, and it does a lot of damage, 53%. He told me to spread after the match. I was at 59%, the roll was between 53 and 63%, so to kill me he would have needed an above mid roll. But yeah, he doesn't get the roll. It was a roll nonetheless, so like it could have gone either way. But it was more in my favor, but you know how rolls go, so you know, I guess you could say I got like lucky there in a sense, but I don't know, it's definitely not hacks, because it was like, it wasn't like even an exact middle roll. But you know, it's obviously nice for me that I didn't suffer the high roll there, as I am going to switch out this turn, go into my Shaman on his taunt. I felt that turn, if he was taunt, he was going to go for it, or he was just going to spam Stone Edge, trying to get the crit. Either way, Shaman does force out the Crocodile, especially now that I haven't taken damage, so he can't tell if I am like, you know, a fast Shaman with like an offensive variant or something like that. He's going to be forced out this turn, and I'm going to go for the this turn I am going to double out, expecting him to switch out and go into something like the Mega Latios to take advantage, or even the Togekiss, which my guard can kind of shut down if it is like a slower boosting variant. So turn 1 I am going to Wish Up, as he does go for the Air Slash, which we eat comfortably. Now I'm going to switch out to my Zapdos, just expecting him to make the switch out to either Jirachi or Jublade, having realized that I was a Wish set. If I was like Taunt Guard, I completely shut down any like setup variant of Togekiss. And the fact that I am Wish should kind of hint that to him, but you know, he could also expect me to be like a Will-O-Wisp variant, so that kind of staying in does also make sense on his behalf. So Zapdos is going to receive the Wish, as he does go for the Nasty Plot here. And this is quite interesting. Nasty Plot, this thing has Baton Pass, the the good move, I'll say that. It does have Baton Pass on his set, and Nasty Plot makes sense with Baton Pass, because this can't break Zapdos. He's not a fast Togekiss, and he can't break Zapdos. Even with Dazzling Gleam, because I am Spidef, so I am expecting him to be a Baton Pass variant here. So I'm going to go for the U-turn. I was hoping to get the slow U-turn out, but he actually reveals to be slower than my Zapdos, so he's not even creeping like min speed Zapdos there, so that's quite interesting. As I do go for the U-turn, and I go into Uxie, reason being, if he did Baton Pass this turn, I could bluff that I was like a Spidef Uxie. I do have a little bit of Spidef, but I felt as though he was either going to switch there, fearing the Thunderbolt, or he might be like a Wakan Berry variant and Baton Pass out up to tanking the Thunderbolt and go out to something like Swallow. But he does Baton Pass out, goes out into his Crocodile this turn. And he actually told me after the match he was fearing that I was going to be a Spidef Uxie with T-Wave, so I could T-Wave the Swallow, rendering its Boom Burst, its Nasty Plot bonus kind of useless. Like it would only be able to net like 1 kill if anything, and then get revenge the next turn. Even if he did go into Swallow there, I could sack him on like Shaman or something, or I could even go into Uxie, sack him on and revenge with my Scarf Heracross, but he does make the play into Crocodile here, so I'm going to stay in and go for my rocks here on his rocks, expecting him to go for the rocks on my Shaman switch, as I've shown Shaman to be a pretty... I have shown Shaman to be one of my answers to Crocodile, so I didn't expect him to go for the attack there, or even taunt for that matter. I felt as though he'd rocks and then switch out when Shaman came in. And this turn I'm going to switch out to Shaman on his knockoff and tank it with relative ease. Now I'm going to go for the leech, because whilst I could have synthesized here, getting chip off on anything that wants to come in, be it the Togekiss, the Rachi or the Latios, is very nice, as you know, whether Shaman's at full health or at like 58 after coming in on rocks again, it's still going to check this Crocodile, so that's pretty nice. Uxi's going to come in on the switch out. I think he expected me to go out into Jirachi, into Gardevoir, as he makes the double into Rachi. Going out into Uxie really covered both bases there. Like, it was my optimal play, because now I can foul play the Rachi. I could have foul played the Lati if he wanted to stay in and set up. Risking guard there was not my play, especially as guard can encore lock the Togekiss, which is looking like a threat. I don't want to give that thing another opportunity to potentially pass to Swellow. So in comes the Uxie, and I'm going to go for the foul play this turn, as he does fire off the Iron Head and does what Jirachi does and just flinches my Uxie. This turn he opts to switch out into his Crocodile, as I do go for the foul play here, just getting some nice chip, getting my lefties back. So now I'm back at 90, so that Iron Head was essentially, I've recovered up the damage from it, which is pretty nice. And so my phone is going wild. Now I do expect him to make a switch out right here, going into Togekiss or Latios to capitalize on my, pretty obvious Shaman switch in. So I am going to, hoping he is going to go into Togekiss, because he's under the impression at this point that Togekiss is a pretty, safe pass. If he gets, the baton pass into his Swellow, that's basically, one of his ways of winning this game. So I felt as though he would be quite eager to go into that. And I'm going to switch out to my Infernape this turn, knowing that I can tank, a knockoff if he wants to go for it. Or even a taunt if he did want to go taunt my Shaman so I couldn't heal up after the rocks damage. That turn I'll go for the Leech Seed on the following turn as Crocodile switched out, but I do make the kind of middle ground play and going into my Infernape. Now here, he may fear the Gunk Shot, in which case he may switch out, or he may be Poison Resist Berry. I really don't know at this point. I haven't seen his item. He does reveal at the end of the game to be actually a weakness policy variant, he told me, but for all I knew at this point, he could be a Resist Berry. Regardless, you turning out to guard is my play of choice, because if he does Roost Up or Nasty Plot, I can Encore it. If he attacks, I can tank an Air Slash after rocks, proceed to Wish Up, and then Encore the next turn. Guard is my play every time with the U-turn. So he does make the play of switching out into his Crocodile. Murk in his commentary felt like that was a really aggressive U-turn. Little did he know at that point that I was planning to switch out to U-turn out to guard on his Togekiss if that was the case, and he did stay in and try and set up or something like that. Either way, U-turn was literally the best play there for me. So I'm going to go into my Zapdos here. This does force his Swellow from coming in. Because I do live a Specs Boomburst at this range of health. Everything else would have encouraged his Swellow to come in, barring my Scarf Heracross, which would have encouraged his either his Jublade or his Togekiss to come in. So I haven't revealed to be Scarf Heracross at this point, but just looking at the composition of my team, Murk is a smart guy. He can probably put 2 and 2 together at this point. So I didn't want to lose so much momentum there. I wanted to go into my Zapdos just to force in either the Rachi or the Lati. So he does go out to Latios here. I make the play of U-turning here. I don't expect him to attack. I expect to either set up or go for the Roost. So we get the U-turn momentum out into Uxie, who can comfortably tank a +1 Dragon Claw or Outrage if he even did have it, and kill him off with the foul play. But he actually does elect to keep his Lati around and let his Togekiss tank the foul play, and this is just fine with me because now I can switch out to my guard, who can actually take this Togekiss on with the Encore Lock. So I'm going to Wish Up turn 1, knowing he's going to Nasty Pulse. No point locking him into Roost if I don't have to. I can Wish Up and receive a bit of health whilst doing the same thing next turn with the obvious Nasty Plot attempt. So I'm going to lock him into Encore. and receive my wish, as now I can just fire off a hyper voice on the incoming Rachi. So Rachi is, he hasn't shown lefties, so he's more than likely, just judging by the composition of his team, my thought process at this point was that he was more than likely a shit shell variant, just to capitalize, like I said earlier in the team matchup, just to capitalize on a potential dog trio bring, as, you know, having Swellow and, you know, that particular Togekiss set in the back, would really spell trouble if I did bring like a trapping Dougie this match versus the Rachi. So yeah, the no item kind of just reinforces that in my head, but you know, for all I know, he could be a potential Z move Rachi, or even like a resist berry, like a Shadow Ball resist berry, just to you know, more comfortably take on a guard. Nonetheless, I am just going to protect here. If he is like a setup variant, it's not the end of the world. I can just sack something and go into my Nape, who can comfortably revenge, and he doesn't, at this point in the match, he doesn't have any reliable switchings to Nape. Given that everything is really weakened, his Luddy is weakened. That's his best kind of response to Infernape at this point. So I'm going to go for the Protect, but he does actually reveal the Calm Mind, which is quite interesting, as he did go for the Iron Head earlier. His Iron Head damage off from my Uxie revealed him to be like minimal investment in attack, or if anything, so I was kind of curious to see what his set would be, as he does reveal the Calm Mind. I go into my Shaman knowing that if Shaman goes down here, it's kind of the most expendable thing at this point. Loses to Togekiss, loses to like, just kind of allows Laddie to set up, obviously loses to Specs Boomburst. It's pretty nice for the Jublade, as I can Leech Seed it, but the fact that I've lost my Rocky Helmet means that it's not the greatest check left to take on the Jublade. I have better answers in Infernape, you know, Zapdos, Uxie, Hera, so I'm going to sack off my Shaman here, as I do eat the Thunderbolt. He's going to go for the Psychic here and crit me. Reason this was unfortunate is because I would have been able to use that, like, it doesn't really matter, like Infernape revenges, but I would have been able to use that. If he hadn't got the crit and killed me, I would have been able to calculate his EV spread from that, but it doesn't really matter. The last thought running through my head was that he could potentially be an Ockerberry variant, but the fact that he brought this in on guard made me think that he was max speed, and no health Rachi actually dies to a Flare Blitz, Life Orb Flare Blitz, even if he is Ocker from this range. So yeah, Nape was my play here, just firing off the Flare Blitz as he goes into Togekiss, and sacks it off to the Infernape, just wanting to get the recoil. Very smart play on his part, wanting to whittle down my Infernape so it can't come back in on rocks. So fair call, unless I can somehow Wish Pass guard into Infernape. Infernape is looking low, so I'm going to go for the Mach Punch here, wanting to whittle this Swallow down, put it in range of rocks with a Life Orb Mach Punch, as we do a decent chunk, 47. That actually tells me that he's got a little bit of HP investment, which does make sense because the fastest thing he needs to outspeed is my Dugtrio, so he can afford to put the rest in health, which explains why that Mach Punch did less than 50. So Heracross is going to come in here and click Knock Off and get a kill, as we do revenge the Swallow quite nicely, so that huge threat is gone, and Heracross is now kind of going to go in. However, if this thing is like max attack, this is where the battle kind of starts to get a bit like a bit intense. We were both thinking long and hard about these plays for quite a while. So if he's like Aerial Ace variant, or like a a Gyro Ball max attack variant, he'll take out my Heracross here. And I've been getting unlucky. I've been getting lucked a lot lately in Mons. So I wasn't about to risk losing to Hack. So if I lose this, if I lose this Heracross, I can potentially lose the game to Hacks, to crits, and that was something I tried to minimize. So I did want to switch out here, go into my Uxie, knowing I could tank an Aerial Ace if he did have it, knowing I could tank a Gyro Ball. It's in his interest not to SD here, because +2 Shadow Sneak doesn't kill Heracross, and Heracross at +1 will 2-hit KO this Jublade, especially once its Eviolite's been removed. So I do go out to my Uxie this turn, knowing that I can take a Gyro Ball or Aerial Ace if he does want to go for it. Even if for some reason he went for Shadow Claw, I could take it relatively well. But he does switch out to Latios here, Mega Latios, so if I had knocked off again, then I would be in at +2 and been in an even better position. But Uxie also covers this base. He did predict me there to go out to Zapdos, which is a pretty decent Jublade answer. He hoped to then capitalize on that by like roosting up or dragon dancing up. Probably roosting up would have been the play, because I've shown Uxie my Zapdos' U-turn would have killed Laddie at that range of health. But yeah, Uxie can basically just foul play versus this Laddie and take it out. He doesn't want to switch anything into a foul play, as will take a considerable chunk. The Dragon Claw does a decent amount, 22. It's, you know, it's decent chip on Uxie, and he now has Rachi, who can just do what Rachi does and flinch mons down. So yeah, he does go for the flinch here, and yeah, he continuously tries to flinch me down, but we do get the foul play damage off. Now here is where it got pretty interesting, because I'm in a situation where like I could potentially try and break out of Iron Heads. Like, I don't blame Murk for going for Iron Head there. It was his play of, like, it definitely was it was the best play he could make. So no shaming going for flinches, but keeping Uxie around is pretty important. Like, I could try and go for foul plays and take this out, but then I'd be really low, and there's no guarantee I'll even like survive the flinch fest. So my play of choice here is to sack guard, allowing me to revenge with Heracross, dealing enough damage to Jublade, putting it in a range of health where it has to attack Uxie, who can survive a plus 2 Shadow Sneak. Who can survive a neutral Shadow Sneak and kill it with foul play after its Eviolite has been knocked off. So that was my play here. I do go out to guard, just wanting to, you know, guarantee my win late game, not trying to you know, potentially lose to hacks by sacking off Uxie there. So I do go for the Wish that turn. Reason I went for the Wish was, had he switched out to Jublade there, not wanting my Heracross to get a free like revenge kill and as a result a Moxie boost, I went for the Wish that turn. The turn I got flinched, which would have allowed me, the turn I died with guard, which would have allowed me to then switch out into my Uxie and heal up. Two foul plays would have, the first foul play would have done a solid chunk to Jublade. Had he set up that turn, if he was an SD variant, the second foul play would have taken him out. If not done, put him in a very low range where the next foul play would take me out. Reason I say this is 2 Shadow Sneaks, even at +2, wouldn't have been able to take out Uxie, because I would have been around full at that point with Lefty's recovery after receiving the Wish from guard. So that was my mindset there. Like, that was my thought process, I guess you could say. But he does actually just opt to take me out with the Iron Head on my guard, which is fine, because now I can, like I said, go back to my original game plan, which was revenging with Heracross and forcing the Jublade in a position where he has to make the offensive play or risk getting 2-hit KO'd by Heracross. So as you can see, like, knockoff does a ton at +1. He has to attack me here because +2 Shadow Sneak doesn't kill Heracross unless he crits. But I don't think you know, Murk would risk that. I think he would just take me out, because, you know, there is a potential that he could like somehow like crit my last 2 members, but I don't know. He's kind of playing for differential at this point. Like, it's not in his interest to like try and go for the win, in my opinion. If he can't get an SD up. If he could get an SD up, he could potentially try for the crits on like Zapdos. But he does, obviously, like, I've forced him now in a position, having Heracross in on the Rachi, getting the +1 boost, I've forced him in a position where he has to play offensively. So he does go for the Gyro Ball and take out my Heracross. But now Zapdos can just come in and click T-Ball. A Shadow Sneak crit won't take me out from this range of health, because Zapdos is bulky. And yeah, we get the win over Murk. Definitely one of the toughest players in the NPL, in my opinion. You know, not just because of his team, but just because of his experience in the format. He's been around. He's been in, like, you know, multiple draft tournaments. He definitely knows what he's doing, and he's drafted like a crazy strong team. So yeah, very happy with the outcome. It was a great game. And yeah, I recommend you guys go and check out Murk's side of the match, because he's a very good player and he's a really good narrator. I really enjoy watching his videos. He always has you know, good content on his channel. So I'll be leaving the link. I'm sure you guys already know him. Like, all my audience knows everyone, so there's no point, like, I don't really need to go on about it. So you guys all know Murk. Go check him out and go watch his side of the match, because it's very, you know, it's always interesting to hear, you know, both coaches' perspectives. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know, just leave a like. Let me know what you guys thought of the match. And next week we do take on Razor and his Mega Gyarados team with a Tapu Koko. That'll be interesting for sure. I hope you guys are hyped. I know we're getting this team it's not the best team at all. Like it's nowhere near the caliber of team that I had last season in the NPL. It's probably like, I don't know, half as good, I'd say, but it's definitely fun. Like it's definitely fun. I didn't go try hard when drafting like I did last season, but it's a fun team, and we're having some fun games with it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey so far, and I'll see you guys next week.